Welcome to the Hip Hop Hidden Gems podcast, where we celebrate the classics that time has forgotten.
Hip Hop Hidden Gems is all about celebrating the music that has shaped several generations. This bi-weekly podcast, hosted by TheMoJoKing and Willie Freeman, aka Vision, will focus on the art form's undervalued and underappreciated gems. Each episode is dedicated to a song that didn't receive the proper shine in its initial release.
But this is a special episode.
Yes, because this Sunday, KRS and Big Daddy Kane will meet on the Verzuz stage. There is a Verzuz battle between KRS and Big Daddy Kane, and we're going to talk about it.
Woo!
A 19 Media Group presentation.
Alright, clearly this is Kane versus KRS-One. But before we talk about that, I feel we have to talk about the elephant in the room. And that's the battle that was supposed to happen. And it's not this one. What was supposed to happen was Kane versus Rakim.
Yes, sir. That's what we all were looking for. You're right.
As much as I'm looking forward to this Kane versus KRS one, there's no doubt in my mind that the one that was supposed to happen was Kane versus Rakim.
Smooth operator versus the soloist. You're absolutely right.
Kane has said as much in interviews when they were first discussing there being a versus with Kane involved. He said that he thought it would be Rakim.
Yeah.
And he didn't get that out of nowhere. That was the talk for years in the late 80s and early 90s about which one was better.
That's the battle that should have happened. I don't think Rakim would ever agree to that, honestly.
I'm with you. Interestingly enough, I actually found him talking about it.
Yeah.
So he basically said something like, if it made sense, he would do it, but he doesn't understand. He doesn't see why people would want to pull him back until 87, 88. To me, now, all right, let me first say this. My favorite rapper all time, Rakim. With that said, sounded like a bit of a cop-out to me. I don't think he wanted any parts of that battle. For as skilled of an MC as Rakim is, and I think he may be one of the most skilled lyricists that we've ever seen in hip-hop.
Yeah.
I don't know if going on stage and facing the likes of a Big Daddy Kane was something that he would relish.
Right. Well, when I think about Rakim's songs, he has songs I sit down and study. He takes you on this lyrical journey, right? And the way, now I haven't seen him live, so the way I feel when I imagine that being live, I don't want to say that he's like this live, I haven't seen him live, but I would be there to go on that lyrical journey with him. Do you see what I'm saying?
Now, that's a great point. Let the Rhythm Hit Him was one of the first albums I ever purchased. And the thing that's amazing about that title track is that he keeps an extended metaphor through 3 verses.
Mm-hmm.
Most people have trouble keeping metaphor from line to line making sense.
Right.
But he does it 3 verses, at least 16 bars each verse. That's amazing. That, to me, that's what's mind-blowing about Rakim. The thing is that in a battle, when you're face-to-face with somebody on stage, I don't know how well that crosses over.
Right. So there's a stage presence. There's the skill of the DJ. If you bring a DJ, how dynamic is your DJ? When you're doing the song, is it feeling like I'm listening to the song and you're there, like a music video? Or is it feeling like you're doing something brand new where you're using the song, but you're bringing something dynamic to the stage, something powerful that I'm like, oh, we're having this experience here together. And that on someone who's a Renaissance artist of lyrics, there's so much that's poured into the lyrics. There becomes a question of how much of that can translate to a live crowd when they don't have your undivided attention because there's someone else that they may be looking forward to just as much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you do it live, the crowd really can't hear everything you say anyway.
Right.
They'll hear points, they'll catch points of emphasis, but Rakim isn't a point of emphasis, easier for me to say, isn't a point of emphasis type rapper. This is going to sound strange to say, but Rakim is more of the type to hold your hand and take you on a journey.
Yeah.
And in a battle, you probably need somebody to take a hand and then slap you in the face.
Right. The attention span is expected to be shorter and abbreviated and broken down by measures, not by verses. You know what I mean? Like, here's these 2 bars, these 2 bars, these 2 bars. etc. When you have a catalog of songs that redefined a genre of music because of the lyrical brilliance you put in it, it's not necessarily a catalog of songs to make people jump up and down and scream.
Yeah, and to that point, Rakim needed to battle on wax. Even if you look at Lyrics of Fury, that is a battle. That's a battle song.
True.
He could do that on stage and it would sound pretty cool, but it's still a bit of an extended metaphor type rhymes as opposed to punchline.
Right.
On wax, that sounds super wicked. I don't know if it would translate live. And I'm pretty sure Rakim knew that too. All right, let's move on to the main event.
Big Daddy Kane.
All right, let's talk about Big Daddy Kane. That's your boy, so I'll let you start it off.
This is my all-time favorite MC. Kane is one of the first, Long Live the Kane, his first album is one of the first albums I ever got as a kid when I first got into hip hop. I'd had a lot of tapes where someone mixed a bunch of songs together, but when I went and got my first album, it was Long Live the Kane. And from start to finish, it defined my idea of what rhyming and MCing was. And everything about what Kane did was really felt like I must prove to you I'm the most incredible rapper out, and I will prove it while telling you about it. I will show it and prove it. Not just I'm going to tell you I'm great and hope you believe me. I'm going to do great things along the way.
Absolutely. So like I said, Let the Rhythm Hit Him was one of the first albums I bought. While I was buying that album was It's a Big Daddy Thing. Going back to Long Live the Kane, those two are the best albums that I could think of that generation.
Yeah, no doubt.
And matter of fact, It's a Big Daddy Thing, I probably would still keep in my top 10 albums of all time.
And me, Long Live the Kane was one of those albums, if I was stranded on an island, that's one that I would keep with me. Like that's something I can listen to endlessly and not tire of.
And in a battle sense, a lot of those songs on there are perfect for a battle. Set It Off. Like I would assume that he's going to start his set with Set It Off.
Or Raw, because Raw starts out with I'm coming. So that would be if I'm coming to the stage, you start out with the scratching of I'm coming and then here I am. All right. Like to me, Raw would be the one to really to open up with. The challenge is the first album has so many bangers on it, but the higher you start, the more you eliminate other songs from that album. Like the title track, Long Live the Kane, I love. And the last verse has not so much extended metaphor, but the last verse of Long Live the Kane, the song, has so many circling back to a concept throughout the verse that it's one of those things that it's an extended concept. And it's a great way to start an album off. It's a great way to start a show off. So you can go into your Raws, your Set It Offs, your Ain't No Half Stepping. But if you start with Set It Off, it's really hard to drop back to Raw because Raw is a lot slower. If you start with Ain't No Half Stepping, it's hard to go back to Set It Off or Raw because Ain't No Half Stepping was a bigger hit. You see what I'm saying?
First of all, I stand corrected because as soon as you said the first couple lines of Raw, I was like, oh, wait, no, that's the one. Mm-hmm. That's where you start.
Right. You have to. That's the joint. And so anyway, that kind of stuff, to me, Kane's songs were just 2 or 3 battle verses over a beat together sometimes. Rhymes like these can destroy an MC with a black belt degree. And then later on, he goes, therefore, the job is left to me. So I get the party kicking just like Bruce Lee, but I won't stop there. I still rock a little harder while these toy MCs step and say sayonara. Like he keeps coming back to that one thing. That's a battle rapper. And all of it is I'm dope and the rest of y'all are whack. You can go home now. And when you take how Raw was, when you take how Set It Off is, you take Ain't No Half Stepping, and that is really a showman on stage doing his thing. Kane's whole career is designed around getting on stage and rocking a show. Like there's a clip on YouTube that had like 100,000, 200, 400,000 views. And it's about Kane dropping the mic while he was rapping. It's part of his show. He's up there in his like pimp fur coat, blah, blah, blah. And he's going boom. And they actually stop the beat. Everybody stops, looks at the mic on the floor. He pauses, picks it up and goes, dropping the mic can't stop me from flowing, and keeps going because that was the line. He's going to come out with his dancers. He's going to, I expect, I'm not going to lie, I expect to see Scoob and Scrap. And I expect them to do stuff that they shouldn't be able to do at our age now. Like I really expect that it's going to be a show when Kane is up. I expect Kane's show to have the craziest beats that he has available. I expect him to be rhyming things that we hadn't heard in ages. I expect him to occasionally update a lyric or two to a new punchline, etc. I expect some tricks on stage, not just dancing tricks, but like just things for the show to make people go, wow, what just happened? That's how Kane is all about, entertaining the crowd and showing he's the best at it, lyrically and his stage presence.
All right. Well, I do have a question for you. Have you seen Kane recently?
Recently, no. It's probably the last time I saw him live. I think there was like a cruise he was performing on. I saw that on YouTube.
All right. Well, the one thing I will say in caution of that is that now, remember, we're talking about older gentlemen. He should be in his 50s at this point, I would think.
Yeah.
So personally, I think he's put on a little bit of weight. I would be surprised if he can do the same things that he did in his 20s. Like I think he will do a little bit of dancing, but I don't think it will be to the point that of what he used to do. Because I've seen clips of him being absolutely magic, going through those fast verses and is blowing through them while he's dancing, which, as somebody who's pretty much out of shape like myself, I would have a heart attack doing.
Right.
But I guess we'll see on Sunday, but I don't know if he's necessarily up to the task on that one. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if Scuba and Scrap are in shape like that.
Just to lay it out there, I want to see it.
I think you laid out the first album pretty perfectly, which I guess will roll right into me with this Big Daddy thing. I think that he has a plethora of hits to hit there. One of them will be on a future Hip Hop Hidden Gems. I don't know. Should we spoil it?
No.
All right, we won't
wait for it.
All right, we won't say which one it is. But you have Another Victory on there. You have Young, Gifted, and Black on there.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat on there. Warm It Up Kane on there. Let's see. But I do have a question about It's a Big Daddy Thing album.
Okay.
Would you, being that this is a battle in the true sense, would you perform Smooth Operator or I Get the Job Done? Both pretty big hits for him.
See, here's the thing, because these two songs I think about a lot. Smooth Operator is laid back. The lyrics are practically battle lyrics. They're definitely freestyle, transforming on stage like a Decepticon. You know what I mean? But beat is really smooth, really mellow. If he's coming out to it, yeah. If it's going to be a 2-hour show and there's time to say, let me slow it down a minute, sure. But if it's about just rocking the crowd, that will give you a nostalgia feel. So I wouldn't, and it's one of his bigger hits. So I wouldn't take it off, but it's not something where people hear it and the crowd's going to go crazy. I Get the Job Done has the exact opposite effect. It's hype. It's got the dancing and all that. The beat's banging, he's rhyming, but it's also moving a little bit more into, it's a Teddy Riley sound. It's moving toward New Jack Swing. And if you're having largely a boom bap audience, there is a risk there of coming out and doing I Work Baby. You know what I mean? I wouldn't recommend I Get the Job Done. I can't fault him for Smooth Operator, but honestly, if you still got Another Victory, Mortal Kombat, Lean on Me, like you got some bangers on there that can, even if you're doing them just for like a minute, just so people can remember and bounce up and down and scream and holler, he's got some stuff in there for that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, the thing that becomes interesting to me in that is that with us being of that generation, pretty much any song he puts on there, we're going to be like, oh my God, I remember when that one.
Yeah.
But Verzuz is going to appeal to many generations and generations that haven't necessarily heard too much out of it. When Smooth Operator comes on, I'm thinking most hip hop fans will at least have some resemblance of it. They'll be like, I've heard that before. I didn't know who did it. Oh, that's Big Daddy Kane. I could see that happening. And I would say the same to maybe a lesser degree with I Get the Job Done. But, back to say like Warm It Up Kane.
Yeah.
I don't think that people past way beyond our generation have heard that before. So I don't know if it's going to get the crowd super hype as it would like say you or me when we start rapping the lyrics to it right back to them.
I hadn't thought of that. You're right. Then considering who the crowd will be, some of us will be hot on it, but others may not at all. Yeah. They may not even heard it.
Yeah, I mean, you would assume that most of the people in the crowd will be of of our generation or close to it because they're the ones that would want to hear it. But some people would just be like, all right, Barclays, hip hop, let's go out there and see what these old guys are about. All right. Well, now to me, this is when the problem starts because as untouchable as I feel Long Live the Kane is, and it's a Big Daddy thing, Kane's catalog starts to take some hits after that. So the next album is Taste of Chocolate, and particularly in his album that came right after this, that was Prince of Darkness.
That's when things got difficult. And what happens is the album gets a bad rap. It earned its bad rap, but it gets a bad rap because you've got The Lover in You is on there. You've got Groove With It. Both of those have Larry Williams singing on them. You've got I'm Not Ashamed with Allison Williams. And people, that became a single, and he's singing on it. It's not just he's rhyming. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And there were other songs on there that were him still just going in at it. Like Get Busy is on there. Brother Brother, where him and Little Daddy Shane go back and forth. But they chose a classic mellow track to do it on. What else was on that album?
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I don't care how many songs you list, you cannot convince me this is a good album.
I am not able to convince you it's a good album. I just to be real, like there are good songs on it, but Float, Come On Down, those are two that are my favorite. And I remember having to push my way to them because the album didn't start off really strong. And I can't knock anybody that's got a critique of that album. Come On Down has to get its props. The beat was crazy. Tip did his thing. Busta was in the height of who is Busta Rhymes. Like that was a point where everybody was like, what? There's the dragon dude, have him do his thing.
Actually, you bring up a good point about that. A side note, I think this was the song that Busta Rhymes talks about in interviews sometimes. Yep. He was tired of everybody wanted him to do the dragon.
Yeah.
And he tried not to do it. And Kane was like, yo, bro, when you going to do the dragon?
When you going to do the rah-rah? He was like, yep. You don't respect my bars? I got to go do. And that's why it's at the end of the song. Like he went back in there like rah-rah direct from the lungs of the dragon. Like it's an afterthought on the verse. That song was incredible. So yeah, that I get it. That was not his strongest album by any stretch of the imagination.
All right, following that, I will say that Kane did come back to some degree. It looks like a Job 4. Now, the one thing that always bothered me about that album, there was a shift in hip hop towards gangsterism and being hard and being tough. And Kane, it was such a clear shot in that direction.
Yeah.
That it came off as less than authentic, which learning more about Kane's history, I probably shouldn't have took it that way. But as a fan of that generation, I just remember like, no, Kane, this is not supposed to be where you're at. But with that, I will say that there was one particular banger, Nuff Respect Do.
Yes. Nuff Respect and Know the Ledge felt like they were joined at the hip for me.
Well, they were both on the soundtrack, the Juice soundtrack.
Okay.
So those two plus Uptown Anthem.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the Son of Berserk song, if you remember that. It was What Could Be Better Be?
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah, that song pops in my head every once in a while. I don't know what the man is doing with the rest of his life, but just so he knows, What Could Be Better Be pops in my head every once in a while. I feel like saying it to people sometimes, but probably shouldn't. But it still pops in my head 20 years later.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, Enough Respect, dude, was just crazy. That I love that. And that was Easy Mo B. At least the one that was on the album was Easy Mo B. I think originally it was like Bomb Squad.
It was Bomb Squad?
The original one, yeah.
Wow.
The original version was Hank Shockley and Gary G. Wiz. And anytime any Shockley is on anything, I'm gonna call it Bomb Squad. Like it could just be one of the Shockleys, and I'm gonna say that's Bomb Squad. But the remix, the version that's on the album, was produced by Easy Mo B.
All right, cool. All right, and then, his last official major label album was Daddy's Home in 1994.
I have a confession to make. When this album came out, I bought it and slept on it.
That's not the best look for Kane when his number one fan is like, all right, I'm not going to pay any attention to this.
King Asiatic, nobody's equal.
So, okay. One thing that we don't need to overlook with Big Daddy Kane, whenever we're talking about something like a Verzuz, are when you look at his catalog, the people he could bring out on stage with him. Folks who were featured on his songs, his albums, people he may have featured with, because Kane has rolled with a lot of legends, a lot of luminary figures. And when you go back even from the first album, one of the things is some of the people that would have been amazing to bring out aren't with us anymore. Number one, Biz Markie, rest in peace. Bringing Biz out at a Verzuz would tear the roof off the place. Biz, the dude just rhyming with Biz, for Biz to beatbox and Kane to flow on it would be insane. And we don't have him with us anymore. Because
Agreed.
the show improved, we got ODB no longer. Can you imagine the show improved beat come on? Kane, instead of going up to the front, stepping back a minute, Big Scoop comes out. People are like, oh, I remember this song, right? But can you imagine what would happen if Jay-Z and ODB came out on stage? When have we seen Jigga with Wu-Tang before or since? You see what I'm saying? When you go through Kane's catalog, you got Scoop Scrap, Little Daddy Shane, his brother, but you also got Jay-Z, you got Chuck D with Burn Hollywood Burn, you got Ice Cube with Burn Hollywood Burn, and when you go through just step by step, all the people that are there, and then you come to the ultimate posse cut. I know that there were posse cuts before it, there have been a million after it, and some would argue that the Scenario remix is the ultimate posse cut. I'm just a little bit more old school than that. The Symphony will always be the ultimate posse cut for me. I don't care who's first or who last. All I know is y'all just better rock this, the drop of a dime, baby. And the sickest beat that was heard in 87 and just rode all the way through. That was amazing to me.
Absolutely. I mean, that's going to be one of the crown jewels of Kane battling when the Symphony comes on. And that would be amazing, right? Young, Gifted, and Black.
Okay.
Jay-Z did a song, Young, Gifted, and Black, used his beat.
Oh, I didn't know.
A few years later, Jadakiss turned around and did it with Kane's beat. And I mean the exact beat. So the quote in the beginning before the song comes on. So there's no question. Wow. And Jadakiss actually uses a couple of the lyrics, just in case you missed it. So my thing is, imagine if Kane came out and was like, all right, I'm going to rock this. He does a verse. And then Jadakiss comes out and does the second verse. And then Jay-Z comes out and does the third verse. Imagine he did that.
KRS-One.
All right. I will say this off the bat. We will not be going through KRS's entire catalog.
We don't have enough time.
There's not enough time before the verses actually happen. Where to start?
Well, that's the challenge. When you're talking about KRS, when you're talking about BDP, you have to go back to Criminal Minded, right? And the thing is, he starts off rowdy and stays rowdy for like 20 years. You see what I'm saying? So you can come out the gate with The Bridge Is Over or The P Is Still Free or Wada Da Dang, like 9mm, and it doesn't ever turn down. He comes out in an aesthetic that is, we rock the crowd. And that's the whole thing. It's always a chorus that you can sing back with him. It's always this feeling. So you've got 3 songs that just bang off the first album, like from the start. Everybody's heard the beats, whether they know the songs or not. And so you have to start with Criminal Minded. But as soon as you go, okay, we made it through The Bridge Is Over. We made it through The P Is Still Free. We made it through 9mm. You go straight into By Any Means Necessary. And now you got My Philosophy, which is where I discovered KRS. That was the first song I heard from BDP was My Philosophy. And odds are, if our generation's in the crowd, they will sing the whole song back to him. Let us begin. What, where, why, or when will all be explained like instructions to a game. See, I'm not insane. In fact, I'm kind of factual.
Yeah, I mean, you hit a bunch of points on as far as that goes. Although this is probably a silly place to start with KRS. The one point that you did make that I definitely want to follow up on is the production behind KRS. He has a bunch of hits that you know the song and you get hyped the second it's played. They used to have that game on TV that you would hear like 1 or 2 notes of a song. And
name that tune.
Name that tune. And you need to figure out what the tune is. There is a whole generation of hip hop fans that would win a bunch of money if you did a KRS version of that. As soon as those pianos come on for The Bridge Is Over,
Dun 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 dun.
it's over.
Yeah, it's done.
Going a little bit further, Sound of the Police. Whoop, whoop.
And it's over. That's all you need.
Yes, indeed.
Uh-huh. And my philosophy, you don't even need to be. Just here's what. So you're done. To this day, when I'm at work in meetings, if someone says so and pauses too long, I want to come back with, you're a philosopher?
And then later on in his career, when he wasn't just Boogie Down Productions, he went solo, KRS, he got the DJ Premier hookup.
Yeah.
And MCs act like they don't know.
Man, if you got what it takes, I'm on the mic and Premier's on. Don't. Man, I'm gonna have to go play that again tonight.
Rappers Are in Danger. To me, those two are just such quality work by Premier, and it fits so well into what KRS does.
Yeah,
that they're flawless. Of course, now I did skip the main one. You're talking about just songs that automatically get people hyped.
Yeah.
Step Into the World.
Yep, that's the junk, man. Well, the original gets people hyped. So by the time KRS made it hip hop, it was crazy.
Absolutely. And I mean, it was such a brilliant move. And it was so odd that KRS was the one that did it.
Right.
But KRS kept in the lyrics, talking about people can't sell out, they have to keep with the real hip hop, and you have the drums in there and you just go along with it. And you're like, yo, he flipped this into complete hip hop, like just hardcore underground stuff. And the singing thing defies the logic of the time.
Entirely.
But he made it work, and he made it his own, and he flipped it completely.
Yeah, it's like he was like, I'm gonna get Puffy to make a track, and then I'm gonna ask Premier to remix it so that we can put this out. That's what it felt like.
Yep, absolutely. That's exactly what it sounded like. Now, back to another point that you made. The thing that makes KRS the most dangerous. All right, first of all, he's one of the top MCs ever anyway. But what makes him particularly dangerous in this type of format is that, as you pointed out, every single thing that he says sounds like he's on stage rapping, trying to win a battle on stage already.
Yep, no matter what the song is, it sounds like he's battle rapping. That's what I loved about KRS when I discovered him.
Every single line is punctuated like he said something, even lines that he didn't really say something. His dope lines sound like battle rapping. The ones that are just kind of filler lines still sound like battle rapping.
I got to go back to it for 1 second. That was Blondie, Mo.
Yes.
Blondie. This cat took Rapture from Blondie.
All right. Well, the one thing about that, though, right, is that don't forget she actually raps in that song.
That's true. But still, that's not what I expected from the Bronx, from Boogie Down KRS. That's not Blondie.
Blondie. Yeah. But see, that's what I think was part of the genius of KRS doing it, because it did have roots to hip hop.
Yeah.
She did rhyme in it. She did mention Fab Five Freddy.
Yeah, that's true.
So it gave it some authenticity. And don't forget, back then, it definitely helped hip hop.
Yeah.
Because it pushed it back, it pushed it towards helped it in, depending on what you consider help, but it pushed it to the mainstream a little bit. Because at the time, hip hop was considered some outcast that was going to die. It was a fad that was just going to die.
Yeah.
And Blondie in particular was one of them that pushed it into the forefront. Like, no, I think it's here to stay because, I don't know how else to put it, but all the white people here love me and think I'm so cool. Well, I think hip hop's cool.
Right. In 1980.
Yes. I would love to hear KRS's perspective on it, because I'm curious if he felt like, in some regards, he was doing a little bit of a tribute to her for helping push hip hop. I always wondered that. Either way, he made a banger, so it doesn't really matter.
And to have that going on, to have the horns from Rappers Are in Danger going on, to have MCs Act Like I Don't Know. Like BDP put out bangers, and then he went solo, and then just kept going.
Yes, till this day, 2020, he dropped the album Between the Protests, and there's a couple songs on there. Don't Fall For It, and there's a song Black, Black, Black. Prototypical KRS sounds exactly like he's done for generations, and still dope. He does things independently, so he's never going to get the shine he used to get, but I don't think he's lost a step, which is amazing.
Oh, not at all.
All right. I will say this one thing about KRS in particular, his set. I'm pretty sure I know how he's going to start off.
Really?
Yeah, because I was deep diving, researching, and
Uh,
I came across a few of his sets on stage,
uh-huh.
and he always started off very similarly. He started
Okay.
off usually with a quick freestyle, led into South Bronx, led into the Bridge is Over. I think occasionally he flipped it, did a Bridge is Over first, then South Bronx, and then he did Step into the World. Now, what's interesting about that is that I also listened to an interview of him talking about doing battle. And he said very
Uh-huh.
specifically, you don't start off half stepping, which is funny putting it that way.
Yeah.
But he was like, you start off with your hits. You need the crowd completely behind you from the get-go. So he said, instead of trying to get the crowd hyped by saying, hey, come on, get in, get into it, you hit them with the banger, which pulls them in, and then you could control them and do what you will with. So I expect him to come off smoking right off the bat.
Knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone.
So in talking about KRS's catalog, you have to think about all the people he's worked with.
Well, KRS in particular, it's mind-blowing who he's worked with and how many of the top-notch MCs he's worked with.
Right. And it's so many that go so far back. I mean, because you got to remember, we're talking about when you think about just posse cuts, people, we're talking about Mr. Self-Destruction. So
Absolutely.
we're talking about Stetsasonic, Kumo D, MC Light, Dougie Fresh, Just Ice, PE, all that, and that's just one song.
I mean, that's probably the peak as far as just getting everybody as a collective. But even individual songs, he's worked with so many people. First of all, let's think of it this. People may not remember that KRS helped Fat Joe come out.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised one bit if Fat Joe is literally his hype man through his entire set.
It's very possible, which would be just insane. And he's done whole albums with like Bumpy Knuckles. He's done a whole album with Buckshot. He did a whole album with True Master. He did an album with Showbiz, not AG's on it, but there's so many people that he worked with.
What's funny about that is he's also done an album with Marley Marl, which is just weird.
Yeah, given the history. We'll touch on that another time.
Yeah. All right. I don't know if you remember this song because for whatever reason, it didn't seem to get a long shelf life. But there was a song, East Coast, West Coast Killer. It was right when Dre first started Aftermath. So he produced it. On it is my boy RBX with one of the dopest voices in all of hip hop. Be Real is on it, KRS is on it, and Nas is on it.
Wow.
And it's a mind-blowing track, even though I'm not sure if everybody will remember it.
Right.
But if any of those people come out on stage with KRS, it would just blow everybody away.
Yeah, that's true. Any of them.
The Fat Joe is part of the Digging in the Crates crew, which is so is Showbiz.
Right.
And so not surprisingly, he did songs with Lord Finesse, No Gimmicks, and with Lord Finesse and OC, Brainstorm.
Right. And that's OC's voice. The Rappers Are in Danger is from OC from Time's Up.
Absolutely. And that's why that connects, right?
Yeah.
Don't forget, he did One to Pass It, which was Mad Lion, Dougie Fresh, Smith and Wesson, and J. Rue the Damager.
Wow. And he's got songs with Chubb Rock off of one of Chubb's latter albums, Reputation. He's got a song on there.
Yep. Rise and Shine is Kumo D, Chuck D, and KRS, which is just elite. But now, all right, there is one, I would say, consider lesser known group that actually, I think, contain a couple of KRS's greatest verses and greatest songs, really.
Oh, yeah.
So I think you know which direction I'm going.
Man, just say it.
Channel Live.
All we do is spark Madism.
There you go. Madism is the peak. Free Mamiya is right behind it.
Right. Man, when Madism came out, I thought it was a KRS song. And both of the cats were dope, but KRS just opened it and owned it. If we're doing the verses, he's got to do that verse.
Well, I hope he brings them out because, first of all, I don't care what anybody says. Channel Live, actually, both of those MCs are upper tier lyricists. I really do hope he brings them out because that, to me, I would just love to hear that whole song go.
Absolutely. And that beat, KRS produced that.
Did he?
Yeah.
But here's the one. Here's the dagger. if he wants to throw it.
All right.
Do you remember the song Classic?
Yes, that was Kanye, right? I remember Rakim was on it.
Exactly. That's it.
And-
That's all I want. Nas.
And yeah.
Now,
And
imagine
KRS.
and KRS. Imagine KRS brings Rakim out.
That would be insane.
I think that would be the end of the game. I think he just trapped him. You know.
And the winner is.
All right. So let me say this. As far as predicting a winner for this Verzuz, I really cannot picture how this goes well if it becomes something that's competitive or antagonistic between them. I really feel like what would be better for the culture and for the artist is if this is a celebration of just two classic legends who are just going back to back, banger for banger for banger for banger, and reminding people why hip hop is what it is and how it became that way.
No, absolutely. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I would hate for there to be a loser here. This is such a dream matchup. At the end of the day, you want to see them put each other's hands up and just be like, yes, hip hop has come this far and we've done it together.
Amen. That's exactly how it needs to be. And with these two, they both know how to rock a crowd. They both know how to command a stage. And there is so much to be gained from the experience as long as you have two winners.
First of all, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's the way it's going to go. KRS and Kane, to me, although they are both battle rappers by nature, have repeatedly shown that they respect others that also are true to the hip hop form. KRS, a lot of his early albums have a lot of shout outs to other MCs.
Yeah.
He mentions Rakim in songs. He mentions Public Enemy in songs. So as much as KRS is a battler who swears he will battle anybody, he also is willing to show respect.
Yeah.
Kane has done the same thing. You know, he shouted out MCs in songs, but also I remember his liner inside his tapes listed every MC you could possibly think of that's out. I can easily see how this will go into respect mode. Now, all right, now that I've said all that, let me say one more caveat. I think Big Daddy Kane, lyric for lyric, is a better lyricist than KRS. I think that Kane is one of the best of all time. I think that a ton, and I mean a ton, have followed in Kane's footsteps, which will sometimes make people of a newer generation not understand how unique and special Kane was in 88 and earlier.
Right.
Now that I've said all of that, put all those caveats in a way, I've been looking at chats and things online, and people have been swearing that KRS will devour Kane. And before I deep dived into it, I thought they were all crazy because how dare you?
Right.
But here's the problem. As dope as Kane is, and as much as I know Kane can rock an audience and he will get the audience hyped and he will do the special things and he's such a pure lyricist and he's just amazing for hip hop, KRS writes songs that make the crowd feel like they're on stage with him.
That's true. That's very true.
So from my perspective, it almost goes back to what I said what Rakim's problem would be with Kane, that he can't really match Kane in a battle one-on-one on stage like that. I think Kane almost has the same problem with KRS. Because although I mentioned how much I think Kane is one of the best lyricists in the world, there's no question that KRS is also one of the top MCs of all time. And when it comes to doing something live on stage, I have a problem really seeing how anybody defeats KRS now that I've really thought about it and listened to it, even somebody as great as Kane. So if it comes down to it, KRS is going to get him, I think.
I think as much as I would love to disagree with you, KRS has mastered the energy of the live environment, of working the crowd from within the arena, to the point that if you love him and whomever his opponent is, he will make you forget that you love the opponent while he's up there doing his thing. Kane is going to perform and give a great show and give great lyrics, great energy, great flow, all of it. KRS is going to tell the crowd, are y'all ready? Now let's do this. Do you see what I'm saying?
I hear you.
I think that is a fair assessment should things go sour. That said, let me tell you what my dream situation is. These two go song for song, banger for banger, hit for hit. The crowd is worn out. Everybody is like, we don't even know how we're going to walk out of this place. The roof is burning, sweat is dripping. Everyone's lost 5 pounds just screaming, dancing, all of it, right? And at the end of it, rather than it being, okay, who won? They dropped the beat for the symphony, and Cool G, Master Ace, Craig G, Kane, KRS, Fat Joe, Bumpy Knuckles, like everybody gets on that track and they take it home together as one crew.
Goodness gracious.
That is, to me, the ultimate way you end a Verzuz. There might not be able to be another Verzuz after that.